Hidden deep in the cold darkness beyond Saturn, a massive construction project had been working in secret for over 2 years. The UES Leviathan floated in the zero gravity of space like a sleeping giant, waiting to wake up and change the course of human history. The ship stretched nearly 2 kilometers from its pointed nose to its powerful engines, making it the largest vessel ever built by any human civilization. Dr. Emma Walsh stood in the central command center surrounded by hundreds of glowing screens that showed every detail of the enormous warship. She had dedicated the last 5 years of her life to this single project and knew every wire and every computer chip better than she knew her own home. Around her teams of engineers and technicians made final preparations on systems that pushed the boundaries of what human science could accomplish. The ship's artificial intelligence core hummed with power as quantum processors came online for the first time. These computers were unlike anything that had existed before because they could think and learn and adapt in ways that seemed almost alive. The AI was designed to work together with a human captain, creating a partnership between man and machine that had never been attempted on such a scale. Chief Engineer Kyle Brooks called out from his workstation across the crowded control room as he monitored the complex startup sequence. Neural interface systems are operating within normal parameters, and the captain's brainwave connection is stable and strong. In the heart of the massive ship, Captain Nathan Cole sat in a command chair that looked more like a medical device than a normal pilot's seat. Dozens of thin cables connected to special ports in his skull and neck, allowing his human brain to link directly with the ship's computer systems. This neural interface meant that Cole could control the entire vessel, using nothing but his thoughts and intentions. Cole closed his eyes and felt his consciousness expanding as the connection with the ship's AI became complete. Suddenly, he could sense every room and every weapon and every sensor, as if they were parts of his own body. The feeling was overwhelming, at first as his mind tried to process information from thousands of different sources all at the same time. "I can feel everything that happens inside this ship," Cole whispered as data streams flowed through his enhanced awareness. "Every system responds when I think about it, and every weapon waits for my command. The Leviathan is not just a machine. Anymore, it has become something alive." The ship's main weapon represented the greatest breakthrough in human military technology since the invention of gunpowder. Scientists called it a gravitational lance, and it worked by creating artificial black holes that could bend space and time itself. The weapon required enormous amounts of power and could only be fired a few times before its systems needed to recharge completely. Supporting the main gun were hundreds of smaller weapons, including magnetic railguns that fired solid metal projectiles at incredible speeds and plasma cannons that shot bolts of superheated gas hot enough to melt through any known armor. The ship also carried thousands of small fighter craft controlled by artificial intelligence that could operate without human pilots. Dr. Walsh checked her instruments one final time and nodded with satisfaction as every reading showed perfect performance. All the years of planning and building and testing had led to this moment when humanity's ultimate weapon would finally be ready for battle. She felt nervous excitement as she realized that the fate of Earth itself might depend on how well their creation performed. "Dr. Walsh, we are receiving the activation signal from Admiral Morrison," announced one of her assistants from across the control center. "Fleet Command is ordering immediate deployment of the Leviathan to engage the Empire invasion force." Walsh turned to look at Captain Cole, who remained motionless in his command chair as information flowed directly into his brain through the neural interface. His face showed no emotion, but she could see the reflected glow of data displays in his eyes as he processed tactical information from sensors throughout the solar system. "Captain, can you hear the deployment order?" Walsh asked through the ship's internal communication system. Cole's voice came back changed somehow, as if it was being transmitted through the ship's computers rather than spoken by human vocal cords. "I hear everything, Dr. Walsh, and I understand what we must do. The Empire fleet has reached Earth orbit, and our people need us to fight for their freedom. The Leviathan is ready for battle." The massive Dreadnought began to move away from its hidden construction site using fusion engines that burned with the controlled power of miniature stars. As the ship accelerated toward the inner solar system, its weapon systems came online and its sensors reached out across space to identify potential targets among the Empire fleet. Brooks monitored the engine performance and shook his head in amazement as the readings exceeded even their most optimistic predictions. Power output is 20% higher than our best computer simulations showed. This ship has capabilities that we never imagined when we started the design process. The Leviathan's fighter launch bays opened like the mouths of hungry beasts and released thousands of small attack craft that immediately formed perfect formations around the Dreadnought. Each fighter was controlled by its own dedicated artificial intelligence, but they all worked together as a single coordinated unit through quantum communication networks. As the ship approached the battle zone around Earth, Cole felt the presence of the enemy fleet through his enhanced senses. Hundreds of alien warships waited in attack formations that had conquered countless worlds across the galaxy. Their weapons were powerful and their crews experienced, but they had never encountered anything like humanity's ultimate creation. All systems are operating at maximum efficiency, Cole reported to Admiral Morrison through the communication link. We are approaching the enemy fleet and are ready to show them what human determination and engineering can accomplish when combined together. The neural interface allowed Cole to process battle information faster than any normal human mind could handle, while still maintaining the creative thinking that made humans unpredictable in combat. The ship's artificial intelligence provided tactical analysis and weapon coordination, while his human intuition found new ways to use their advanced systems. Dr. Walsh watched the final preparations with mixed feelings of pride and worry. The Leviathan represented everything that humanity could achieve when they worked together toward a common goal. But she knew that even their ultimate weapon would be fighting against overwhelming odds in the coming battle. High Admiral Zekthar of the Zephyrian Empire stood on the command bridge of his flagship and looked with satisfaction at the small blue world that hung in space before his massive fleet. His 4 muscular arms crossed over his chest as he watched the final approach of 500 warships that carried enough firepower to turn entire continents into smoking ruins. The Void Render was the most powerful vessel in the Empire Armada and served as the command center for operations that had conquered dozens of star systems. The bridge around him buzzed with activity as alien officers from 12 different species worked at their stations to coordinate the final assault on Earth. Each crew member had been chosen for their skills in conquest and had participated in many successful invasions of primitive worlds. The Empire had perfected their methods of warfare over thousands of years and had never encountered serious resistance from any species they chose to destroy. These pathetic mammals still believe they can resist the might of our combined fleets, Zekthar said to his tactical officer in the harsh, clicking language of his people. Today we complete the work that should have been finished when we first discovered their backward civilization 3 years ago. His tactical officer nodded agreement while studying the sensor readings that showed the scattered remains of human ships clustered around Earth's moon. Most of the vessels appeared damaged beyond repair and posed no real threat to the overwhelming force that the Empire had brought to end this war once and for all. High Admiral, our scouts report that the human ships are retreating toward their lunar military base, the communications officer announced from her station. They seem to be preparing for some kind of final defensive stand using the moon's weapon platforms. Zekthar made the sound that his species used to express amusement at the foolish actions of inferior beings. He had seen this same desperate tactic attempted by countless other civilizations in their final moments before complete surrender. The humans were gathering their few remaining ships around their strongest fortress, as if those pitiful defenses could somehow stop the Empire's advance. Let them huddle together like frightened children, he told his officers with contempt. It will save us time when we destroy them all in a single coordinated attack, instead of hunting them down one by one across their system. The Empire had developed their conquest procedures through centuries of successful military campaigns against species throughout the galaxy. Their standard approach involved overwhelming any organized resistance with massive displays of force, and then demanding immediate surrender from the surviving population. Civilizations that gave up quickly were allowed to serve as slaves, while those that continued fighting were completely exterminated. High Admiral, we are detecting an unusual energy reading approaching from the outer regions of the system, the sensor operator called out with confusion clear in his voice. The signature does not match any known human ship design in our military databases. Zekthar turned his attention to the main display screen, expecting to see another damaged human vessel limping toward certain destruction. Instead, his eyes widened as he looked at something that defied everything the Empire knew about human technological capabilities. The approaching ship was absolutely enormous and appeared to be generating power levels that should have been impossible for any civilization to achieve. "What kind of vessel is that?" Zekthar demanded as he stared at the massive object moving toward his fleet with surprising speed for something so large. Before any of his officers could provide an explanation, the human ship opened fire with a EIE weapon that violated the basic laws of physics as the Empire understood them. A twisted beam of pure gravitational force struck the front ranks of the alien fleet, and 3 heavy cruisers simply vanished from existence as if they had never been built at all. The gravitational distortions created by the impossible weapon sent shockwaves through space that threw nearby Empire vessels away from the impact point, like toys scattered by an angry child. Zekthar felt his own flagship shudder as the gravitational waves passed through the Void Render's massive hull. "All ships take evasive action immediately," he shouted over the fleet communication system, but the human Dreadnought was far from finished with its devastating attack. Thousands of metal projectiles streaked out from the mysterious ship, traveling at velocities that approached the speed of light itself. Each projectile struck with the force of a nuclear weapon and punched through Empire shields and armor as if they were made from thin sheets of metal instead of advanced military materials. Ships that had served the Empire faithfully for decades exploded in brilliant flashes as their reactors overloaded under the incredible assault. Zekthar watched in growing horror as his carefully organized battle formation dissolved into complete chaos within minutes of the human attack beginning. Captains who had conquered entire star systems found themselves helpless against technology that seemed more like ancient magic than modern science. "This cannot be happening," he whispered, as another wave of kinetic projectiles tore through his fleet. No single ship should possess such overwhelming destructive power. The human Dreadnought released swarms of small fighter craft that moved with perfect coordination toward the scattered Empire vessels. Each fighter seemed to be controlled by some form of artificial intelligence that could react faster than any living pilot, while still maintaining the unpredictable creativity that made organic beings dangerous in combat. Empire pilots who had never lost a battle found themselves completely outmatched by opponents that could think with computer speed while fighting with biological intuition. The human fighters attacked in patterns that appeared random, but were actually carefully calculated to exploit specific weaknesses in alien ship designs. "Send an emergency transmission to the home fleets," Zekthar ordered his communications officer as he realized that his invasion force was being systematically destroyed. "Tell them we need immediate reinforcements to deal with this new human superweapon." But even as he gave the command, Zekthar understood that help might arrive too late to save his expedition from complete annihilation. The single human ship was cutting through the Empire fleet like a blade through soft flesh, and showed no signs of slowing its relentless assault on his forces. For the first time in over 3,000 years of conquest, the Zephyrian Empire had encountered an enemy that was truly superior to their own military might, and the realization filled Zekthar with a fear he had never experienced before in his long career as a conqueror of worlds. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship and watched death approach Earth. The enemy fleet filled the darkness of space like angry red stars moving closer with each passing minute. His own fleet was broken and scattered around the moon, most ships damaged beyond repair or completely destroyed. The war had been going on for 3 years and humanity was losing badly. Lieutenant Lisa Carter worked at her station nearby, her fingers moving quickly over the controls as she tried to keep track of all the enemy ships. There were so many of them that her computer could barely count them all. She looked up at Morrison with worry in her eyes, but kept her voice steady when she spoke. "Sir, we have lost contact with the Neptune defense grid, and the outer ring stations are gone too. The alien ships broke through everything we had out there, and they are coming straight for Earth now." Morrison nodded slowly and kept looking out at the approaching enemy. The Zephyrian Empire had been conquering worlds for thousands of years before they found humanity. They had 12 different alien species working together, and their technology was far ahead of anything humans had ever built. Their ships were bigger and stronger, and their weapons could destroy entire cities with single shots. The humans had fought as hard as they could, but it was never enough. Every battle ended the same way, with more human ships destroyed and more colonies lost to the aliens. Earth was the last place left where humans lived free, and soon that would be gone too. Captain Ben Rodriguez came running onto the bridge from the engineering section. His uniform was torn and dirty from working in the damaged parts of the ship, and his face was covered with smoke stains. He moved quickly to Morrison and spoke in a low voice so the other crew members could not hear everything. "Admiral, the Titan project is ready now. Dr. Emma Walsh finished all the final work on the new ship and says it can fight. The Dreadnought is waiting for your orders." Morrison turned away from the window to look at Rodriguez. The Titan project was humanity's last hope and their biggest secret. For 2 years, every scientist and engineer and builder had worked on creating something that had never existed before. They called it a Dreadnought, but it was much more than just a large warship. Every piece of metal and every computer, chip and every weapon system had been built using new ideas that pushed human technology as far as it could go. The ship was designed to fight against impossible odds and win battles that could not be won by normal means. It was humanity's answer to the Empire's overwhelming power. "How much time do we have before they reach Earth?" Morrison asked Carter. "About 12 hours, sir, maybe less if they speed up their approach." Morrison thought carefully about what to do next. The remaining human ships around the moon were brave, but they were also badly damaged and low on supplies. Most of them had been fighting for days without rest, and their crews were exhausted. If they tried to fight the Empire fleet in open space, they would all be destroyed in minutes. "Send a message to all our ships. Tell them to fall back to Luna Base, where we can use the moon's defenses to help us. We will make our final stand there and hold them as long as we can." He paused for a moment and looked around the bridge at all the young faces of his crew. These people had followed him through 3 years of war and never gave up hope even when everything seemed lost. They deserved to know that humanity still had one more card to play, and send the activation signal to Titan Station. Tell them to wake up the Leviathan. The bridge became quiet as everyone realized what Morrison had just ordered. The Titan project was so secret that most people did not even know it existed. Only the highest-ranking officers and the scientists working on it knew about the massive ship hidden in the outer system. Rodriguez smiled for the first time in weeks when he heard the order. "Yes, sir, I will send the message right away. Dr. Walsh has been waiting for this moment since the project started." Morrison walked back to the window and watched as the red dots of enemy ships grew larger on the horizon. The Zephyrian Empire thought they had already won this war. They believed that humans were just another weak species that would surrender when faced with superior force. They had conquered so many worlds that they expected this one to fall just as easily, but they did not understand humans very well. Humans did not give up when things looked hopeless. Instead, they found new ways to fight and new weapons to use and new strategies that their enemies never expected. The Empire was about to learn that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their numbers, but their refusal to accept defeat. The communication system came alive with voices from all over the solar system as the retreat order went out to every human ship. Captains acknowledged the command and began moving their vessels toward the moon where the final battle would take place. Some ships were so damaged that they could barely move, but their crews pushed the engines anyway because they knew this was their last chance. Morrison felt the weight of command on his shoulders as he watched his fleet gather for what might be their final fight. Millions of people on Earth were counting on him and his ships to protect them from the Empire's cruelty. He had seen what happened to human colonies that surrendered, and he would never let that happen to Earth. The distance beyond the moon Titan Station received the activation signal and began powering up systems that had been waiting for this moment. The Leviathan stirred to life like a sleeping giant waking up from a long dream, ready to show the galaxy what humanity could accomplish when they refused to give up. Captain Nathan Cole felt the pulse of battle flowing through every circuit and sensor of his massive ship as the neural interface connected his human mind with the Leviathan's artificial intelligence in ways that had never been achieved before. The connection allowed him to experience the fight on multiple levels simultaneously while processing tactical information faster than any normal brain could handle. He had become something greater than human during the combat as his consciousness merged completely with the Dreadnought's systems. Through his enhanced awareness, Cole could sense the panic spreading through the Empire fleet like a disease as their organized formations collapsed under the relentless human assault. Alien crews that had conquered countless worlds now found themselves facing an enemy that fought with creativity and determination they had never encountered in centuries of galactic warfare. The ship's tactical systems announced the arrival of enemy reinforcements directly into Cole's mind through the neural link. 300 additional Empire vessels are entering the battle zone from hyperspace jump points located throughout the outer system. Cole felt no fear at the news of more enemy ships because he understood something that the aliens did not. Humans had spent millions of years of evolution learning how to kill predators that were bigger and stronger than themselves. Adding more targets to the battlefield only gave him more opportunities to demonstrate what human engineering could accomplish. Release singularity mines at all hyperspace exit points, he commanded through his mental connection with the ship's weapon systems. The Leviathan launched dozens of small devices that immediately began creating artificial gravity wells using the same space-bending technology as the main gravitational lance, but on a much smaller and more focused scale. When the Empire reinforcements dropped out of hyperspace, they found themselves trapped in a maze of twisted space-time that made normal movement impossible. Ships that tried to navigate through the gravitational distortions were torn apart by forces that pulled different sections of their hulls in opposite directions. Vessels that remained stationary became easy targets for the Dreadnought's long-range weapons, which could strike with perfect accuracy across vast distances of space. Cole felt deep satisfaction flowing through the neural interface as he watched the Empire's reinforcement fleet become another disaster for their invasion force. The aliens kept trying to use tactics that had worked against other species but failed completely when applied to human opponents who could adapt and innovate faster than their enemies could respond. On Earth, billions of people gathered around emergency broadcast screens to watch the battle that would determine the future of their entire civilization. They saw their ultimate creation fighting alone against impossible odds and winning through superior technology, guided by human determination and creativity. For the first time in 3 years of war, they began to believe that survival might actually be possible. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the command center at Luna Base watching tactical displays that showed the Leviathan systematically destroying everything the Empire could throw against it. The single human Dreadnought was accomplishing what entire fleets had failed to achieve during years of desperate defensive fighting. Send orders to all surviving human ships. Morrison commanded over the fleet communication network. Advance immediately and support the Leviathan in finishing off these alien invaders. Our ultimate weapon has given us the chance we need to end this war completely. The remaining human vessels moved away from the protective shields around Luna Base and accelerated toward the scattered Empire forces with renewed confidence and determination. Crews that had been demoralized by years of losing battles now felt inspired by watching their Dreadnought dominate enemies that had seemed invincible just hours before. Captain Sarah Blake commanded the light cruiser, intrepid as it led a formation of smaller ships in coordinated strikes against the Empire's damaged flanks. Her vessel was tiny compared to the alien warships, but she had learned valuable lessons from watching the Leviathan fight and knew exactly how to exploit the weaknesses that the Dreadnought had revealed. Focus all weapons on their shield generators first and then target their main gun batteries while their defenses are down, she told her crew through the ship's internal communication system. Move fast and hit hard, just like fighting someone bigger than you in hand-to-hand combat. The human ships worked together with precision that surprised their alien opponents, who had expected the primitive species to fight with crude tactics and poor coordination. Instead of trying to match the Empire vessels in direct firepower exchanges, they used superior speed and teamwork to strike at critical systems and withdraw before taking serious damage. Each successful attack weakened the enemy ships and made them easier targets for follow-up strikes by other human vessels. The aliens found themselves fighting an opponent that became more dangerous as the battle continued instead of wearing down under the pressure of superior numbers. Cole felt the enemy morale collapsing through his ship's advanced sensors as fear and confusion spread through the Empire fleet faster than their commanders could control. The aliens had grown comfortable with their technological advantages over the centuries and had never prepared for enemies who could think faster and fight smarter than they could. The Empire flagship is attempting to retreat toward the nearest hyperspace jump point. The Leviathan's artificial intelligence reported directly into Cole's consciousness. High Admiral Zekthar appears to be abandoning his invasion force. Cole focused his attention on the massive alien vessel that had led the attack on Earth and represented everything evil about the Empire's philosophy of conquest and destruction. The Void Render was the pride of their fleet, and its elimination would send a message throughout the galaxy that humanity could not be defeated by any force. Target the flagship with our main gravitational lance and prepare to fire at maximum power, Cole ordered as the weapon began charging with energies that could bend the fabric of space itself. Show them that running away will not save them from human justice. The Empire retreat became a complete disaster as ships abandoned their formations and fled toward any escape route they could find, without regard for military discipline or honor. Captains who had served the Empire faithfully for decades threw away everything they believed in during desperate attempts to survive the human counterattack. The gravitational lance reached full charge as space began warping around the weapon's focusing array, and Cole prepared to deliver the killing blow that would end the Empire's invasion of Earth forever. High Admiral Zekthar stood frozen on the bridge of his flagship as he watched the complete destruction of everything he had spent his entire military career building. The once mighty Empire fleet was scattered across space like the broken remains of a child's toy collection, while the single human Dreadnought continued hunting down survivors with methodical precision. In 8 hours of battle, the Empire had lost over 800 ships to one enemy vessel that seemed to possess unlimited power and impossible weapons. This cannot be real, Zekthar whispered to himself as another group of cruisers vanished under the human ship's gravitational weapons. No civilization in the history of the galaxy has ever possessed such overwhelming military superiority. His science officer trembled with fear as he looked at readings that defied everything the Empire understood about physics and engineering. High Admiral, the humans have accomplished something that our greatest minds believed was theoretically impossible. They have successfully created a perfect fusion between biological consciousness and artificial intelligence that allows their ship to think and fight like a living creature. Captain Nathan Cole felt the final moments of the battle approaching through his neural connection with the Leviathan as enemy ships fled in all directions, seeking any possible escape. From the human Dreadnought's relentless pursuit, the interface had transformed him into something beyond normal human limitations, allowing him to control the massive vessel with the speed of pure thought, guided by artificial intelligence that could process information faster than any organic brain. The Empire forces were completely broken now, with their command structure shattered and their morale destroyed by facing an opponent that refused to follow any of the rules they understood. Alien crews that had conquered dozens of worlds abandoned their posts and ran toward escape pods rather than continue fighting against technology that seemed more like magic than science. Open communication channels to all Empire vessels on every frequency they use, Cole commanded through his mental link with the ship's systems. I want every alien in this fleet to hear what I have to say. His voice echoed across space, reaching into the bridge of every surviving Empire ship as the Leviathan's powerful transmitters broadcast on wavelengths that penetrated even the most advanced alien communication shielding. The words carried the authority of absolute victory and the promise of terrible consequences for those who had dared to threaten humanity. I'm Captain Nathan Cole of the United Earthship. Leviathan and I speak for all of humanity. When I tell you that your invasion has failed completely, you came to our world believing that we were weak and primitive because we were different from the species you had conquered before. You were wrong about everything. The gravitational lance began charging for what Cole intended to be the final shot of the battle as space and time bent around the weapon's focusing array with energies that could be detected by sensors throughout the entire solar system. Even ships hiding behind planets could feel the distortions building around the Dreadnought's main gun. We are human, and that means we do not surrender when faced with superior numbers or advanced technology. Instead, we find ways to overcome every challenge and turn our disadvantages into strengths that our enemies never expect. Today you have learned why the galaxy should fear us when we choose to fight. Cole locked his targeting systems onto the Empire flagship as the weapon reached maximum power and prepared to demonstrate the price of threatening Earth and its people. The Void Render represented everything evil about the Empire's philosophy of conquest, and slavery and its destruction would send a message to every potential enemy throughout the stars. The gravitational lance fired with the concentrated fury of a collapsing star as Artificial black holes formed along the beam's path and tore through the fabric of reality itself. High Admiral Zekthar had enough time to realize that his 1,000-year military career was ending in complete failure before his flagship and crew of 12,000 experienced warriors collapsed into a point of infinite density and disappeared from existence. The destruction of their command ship broke the last remnants of resistance among the surviving Empire forces as ships that had served for centuries in successful conquests threw away their weapons and fled toward hyperspace jump points in complete panic. Many vessels never reached safety as Cole systematically destroyed every target he could acquire with the Leviathan's secondary weapons on Earth. Celebrations erupted in every city and settlement as people realized that the impossible had actually happened, and their species had not only survived the Empire invasion but had won a complete victory that would change the balance of power throughout the galaxy. Humanity had announced its presence to the universe in a way that no civilization would ever forget. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the command center at Luna Base watching the tactical displays show Empire ships fleeing in all directions while the human Dreadnought pursued them with relentless determination. The young species from a small planet had just defeated the most powerful military force in known space using nothing but human ingenuity and the refusal to accept defeat. Send messages to every human colony and outpost, Morrison ordered his communication officers. Tell them that Earth is safe and the Empire has been completely defeated. Tell them that humanity's greatest victory marks the beginning of a new age when we will take our rightful place among the stars. Cole felt the last Empire vessels escaping into hyperspace as his enhanced senses lost contact with their energy signatures. The surviving aliens would carry news of this battle to every corner of the galaxy, and other species would learn that Earth's children had become apex predators that could not be conquered by any force in the universe. But Cole understood that this victory was only the first step in something much larger. The galaxy contained countless other empires and alien civilizations that believed themselves superior to humanity, and they would all eventually discover their mistake. Some might choose to become allies, while others would repeat the Empire's errors and face the consequences. Dr. Emma Walsh received the victory reports at Titan Station and wept with joy as she realized that her life's work had succeeded beyond her most optimistic dreams. The Leviathan had proven that human determination, combined with advanced technology, could accomplish miracles that changed the course of history itself. The age of human expansion into the galaxy had begun, and the Leviathan turned toward the outer reaches of the solar system where countless stars waited to witness what Earth's children could accomplish. When they refused to accept limitations on their dreams and ambitions,